నాది యాప్ కాదు.
అక్కడ చూడు స్పీకింగ్ డన్ అంట.
Dear participants, we are about to start the session for the day. So I would request the student category of the participants here kindly join us on the YouTube live, and this room will be exclusively allowed for the officers from the government departments and the working professionals. So our volunteers will start removing you from this room if in case you don't fall to the professional category of the participation. If in case you have received the email with a registration number for this particular session, you will display your registration name so that you will be identified as a professional category of today's participation. So with this, volunteers, can we start the activity, please? Dear participants, good afternoon, namaste, and for people who are joining us from different countries, greetings to you for the session. I welcome you all for the session here on one of the exclusive topic and one of the tool for the criminal investigation, that is the detection of deception. This particular topic being in some countries we have certain legal limitations, and yet this session is more about how the recent technologies or recent innovations can help for the effective criminal investigations. So today we have with us the resource people for the day, Mr. Clifton and his colleague Mr. Luke. I welcome you both for the session here. Just to give a brief introduction about Mr. Clifton as well as Mr. Luke. So as far as I know, Mr. Clifton, he has been a polygraph examiner. He has been the investigator for several years and several decades by now. And to be very happy, I have been personally trained by him on the AVSA, that is Advanced Voice Stress Analysis application. And that's one of the tool for lie detection technique. So today we have his colleague as well, Mr. Luke. So I would share a brief about Mr. Luke as well. However, both of them together, they have now innovated a new technology for effective detection of the deception, which they would actually highlight us in this session here. So Mr. Luke, okay, has been okay.
Idiot.
Mr. Luke has been associated with Mr. Clifton for over a period of time, and they both together are working on particular research and particular product launch. So however, I'll share the detailed information very soon. So it's time for us to Mr. Luke, he's 38 years old, but he was a Australian citizen, now married to a German citizen and living in South Africa near Cape Town. He has a master's in applied science and met Clifton in 2015, from where their discussion regarding the development of this application started. And today, probably after the session, one would actually understand what they both are capable of. So with this brief introduction, I would welcome both of you for the session here, Mr. Luke and Mr. Clifton. So I welcome you for the session, the Experts Talk webinar series. Starting from now, session is yours.
Good morning. I'm Clifton. This is Luke. We are the developers and designers of AVSA Pro Millennium. which is a voice stress detection system utilizing artificial intelligence neural network database. The reason that we developed voice stress detection using artificial intelligence was because we found that the existing products many years ago were very limited in development and in the application. It took very long to score voice graphs, and it was in fact very difficult, and that made the process unreliable. In 2009, we found, or we located, we didn't just find him, we located a French physicist who assisted us in coding our development into a usable application. And since then, we went to a joint venture with top development company in Cape Town to bring to the market 3 powerful, reliable voice stress detection systems. Let me tell you just basically how they work. Traditional voice stress systems capture sound, and they try to analyze sound waves. And we realized very early on that's not reliable. So what AFSA Pro does using artificial intelligence, it captures the sound wave. It takes a picture of a spectrograph, uses the McQuiston algorithm to convert that into a scorable wave. And that goes into a database with thousands of pre-scored voice stress signatures, which we scored ourselves, blind scored several times. And so now the system automatically scores a voice stress wave, and it gives it a raw score within, Luke, microsecond?
Yeah, definitely less than half a second.
It scores every individual voice response, like yes or no. And we use those in a structure. And typically we use polygraph methodology because it's tried and tested, it's proven science. So using polygraph methodologies, but voice stress detection technology, our technology particularly, because it's the only one worldwide that uses AI and neural network databases. So in a scientifically validated question construct, it takes the raw scores and scores them against control questions exactly the way that a polygraph would. And we have found over the years that our system is as accurate. We won't say it's more accurate or more reliable than polygraph because there's a lot of variables. One of the most important variables is the person driving the system, the operator. So a trained operator who uses skill, who doesn't go out of the rules, who uses all the tried and tested methodologies, will produce results on our system that are equal or better than polygraph. What are the benefits of voice stress detection? Time and convenience, user-friendly for both the operator and the examinee. With polygraph, and we're not knocking polygraph because we are polygraph instructors as well. But polygraph is an old technology. It's over 80 years old. It takes a lot of time. It's very uncomfortable and intimidating for the subject, perhaps too intimidating in many instances. And there's too much touching from operator to subject. And especially in a time like this, with a COVID-19 lockdown and transmission rates, we try to minimize touching the subject. And in fact, with our system, we don't have to touch the subject at all. As you'll see later when we do a demonstration, the examiner will give the subject a microphone or a headset, which he'll apply himself. It's been pre-sterilized. It gets re-sterilized. So we are minimizing touching, and it's working pretty well. We've been testing since we were allowed to for about 2-3 weeks now. And it's working well. And this is also why we developed Zoom webinars. We're doing our training by Zoom, and it's also working well. So in fact, COVID-19 has made us look at the way we do things with different eyes. Luke?
Yes, so essentially, if I understand correctly from Fernanda, everyone watching this right now is somehow associated with forensic investigations. And this is why Fernanda asked us to give a presentation today. Our program is actually very much capable of multiple applications, but today we're just going to demonstrate how it can affect and help your forensic investigations. Long story short, we always start our presentations with asking the questions, why do people lie in the first place? People lie for a multitude of reasons, but if you boil everything down, it's to avoid some sort of consequence. The fact that there is a consequence is the reason we can measure things in the body. As soon as the body views something as a threat, certain things happen, all of them involved in the fight or flight response. And people are trained to see these responses in body language, see these responses physiologically. And that is the realm we are delving into now. All of these examinations where you are going to measure something physiologically in the human body, they are called psychophysiological detection of deception examinations. The psychological part comes because the human, well, in our case, the human, they are psychologically perceiving your questioning as a threat. As soon as they perceive your questioning as a threat, in which case that would indicate guilt, they are going to have some sort of fight or flight response. And it's one of these responses that we focus on with voice stress analysis. That is tensing of autonomic muscles. Cliff mentioned it briefly already, but everything within VSA, we're actually calling it voice stress detection nowadays, is based on what's known as the physiological microtremor. This is a phenomena actually in all mammals, but particularly in the human body. It's in every muscle, and it's a rather complicated phenomena, but long story short, it is your brain synapsing to your muscle fibers and your muscle fibers synapsing to the brain constantly. And this sets up a very low frequency, let's say microtremor, yes, a modulation that is measurable. At a resting state, you're looking at between 8 and 12 times per second, so 8 to 12 hertz. If you tense a muscle, obviously it cannot vibrate as much. So this tensing of the autonomic muscles as part of your fight or flight response reduces the physiological microtremor from 8 to 12 down to 4 to 6 hertz. This is then evident in a voice as speech. 8 of your muscles in your larynx are actually autonomic muscles, and this affects your speech patterns, of course, and this is what we are looking for with voice stress detection. This is what tells us the person is having a fight or flight response, and this is what indicates to us the person is now lying. They view this question as a threat, and that is why they're having a fight or flight response.
Yeah. So we don't just look at raw scores like polygraph. We compare a relevant question, which is a did you do it, to a comparison question to give it an equal weighting. And a comparison or a control question would typically be, in the past 3 years, did you ever tell a serious lie to anyone that trusted you? Now, you might think that everybody would say yes, but they don't, because in our pre-test phase, by using psychological trickery, if you want, we get them to lie to that question. They'll say no, but we're not doing them a disservice. We're helping them, because the more that you can develop a control question, the better weighting you have. If you just used a raw score, like some voice stress detection systems, that's not fair, because everybody will have a certain amount of ambient stress coming into a test situation. People often say, but yes, everybody's nervous when they are tested. Of course they are. But we look at baseline. So if somebody comes in for an investigation, we're going to use voice stress detection. They have baseline anxiety. And what we are looking for is amplification, moving upwards from that baseline. But to have a raw score would be meaningless and not fair. So we introduce a control question, same as polygraph, to weigh against the relevant question. Our job essentially is to prove people accidentally.
Yeah.
We're right.
Yeah.
Are we live?
Yeah.
So we don't set out to prove people guilty. The fact is, if you go to a company, we go to a company and test, if somebody stole 10 laptops, so we at a company and we test 100 people, theoretically about 95% should pass. If one laptop is stolen, 99 people should pass, because it doesn't take 10 people to steal one laptop. So we always go with the idea, with a mindset of, this is to prove people's innocence, not their guilt, because guilty people will prove themselves guilty regardless of us.
This is actually an interesting point. As Fernanda mentioned, Cliff and I met in 2015, and coming from a very different scientific background, it was a winning factor for me that Cliff said exactly that sentence. Our job as the examiner is to give every subject the best chance to pass. How do we do that? We give them the strongest possible reactions to these control questions that we psychologically push them to lie to during the pretest. It's a very, very important factor. And in fact, it's probably the most important factor in all training of a good examiner, is to create this psychological environment where they will lie during the test to these control questions.
It's very important that we do that, because the technology is basically cold, it's stupid. It doesn't know what the stimulus was to produce that response. So that's why you need skill, and you have to use specific methodology. Those are the guidelines, and don't go out of them, to give the subject the best fighting chance. Should we move into doing a test demo?
100%.
Yeah. So we're now going to demonstrate an investigative test, and that's what we use this technology for. It's an investigative tool. If you have to investigate 100 possible suspects, you have to start somewhere. And this technology enables you to exclude innocent people.
Okay, I'm going to share our screen quickly here so we can show you the program. No window.
And I don't know what the situation is in India, but if you have distancing problems, can they see me?
Yes.
If you have distancing problems, people can wear these disposable head shields. The microphone fits easily under the disposable head shield. The operator can wear his mask, a cloth mask all the time, but it would be preferable for the examinee to sit far away and answer either using a head shield but no mask. I think we'll demonstrate it with a mask.
Yeah, it's not working for me.
What's happening?
There we go. Okay, so this is our splash screen for the particular program. This is ABSA Millennium. This is our latest iteration of the program with some exciting new features, but we will show you as we go.
We'll also tell you a bit later about one of our newer products, which can be used for quick elimination of pool of suspects.
I just want to confirm, Fernanda, you can see the screen, correct?
Yes, screen is visible. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so the demonstration we're going to give is loosely based around a scenario that there's been a break-in at a Tata head offices. There's been no sign of visible forced entry, and we need to ascertain if any of the staff members for that particular head office were involved in enabling or facilitating this burglary. ABSA Millennium will open up automatically on this tab. It's called Build Test. This is where you'll create your protocols. As Cliff mentioned, all of the protocols included in ABSA Millennium are all based on scientifically validated traditional polygraph protocols. We've only chosen the best of each option, which is also, we can show you just now, scientifically validated as the best. And the #1 test protocol or test template you can use in the world for a specific incident, for one specific thing that happened, which would be this case scenario, would be what's known as the integrated zone of comparison test. We have many other options, as you can see, but for the demonstration, we will choose the IZCT, which is very likely the protocol type you'll be using to guide your forensic investigations, because you'll be investigating specific incidents.
Scientific validation on the IZCT gives it a 99.4% reliability factor when used by a skilled and trained operator.
Okay, I'm just going to maximize here a little.
And in our industry, we call the operators examiners.
So I've confirmed the type of test. We actually have a large inbuilt library of different scenarios.
50 scenarios, 50 crime categories.
Which you can see here. I'm just running through. But for the time purposes, we've actually prepared a protocol already. But just so you know, if I were to click one of our categories, it gives you an automatic list of preferred questions, which you can then edit if need be by clicking and editing as you wish. As I mentioned, to save time, I'm just going to recall a test that we previously made. And you'll see the top half of my screen is still these suggested questions. The bottom half of the screen here is the actual protocol.
Okay,
When we say
Mr.
protocol,
Luke,
say again?
sorry to intervene. What we can see is just the screen with your login screen.
That's not good. Okay, one moment.
Yeah.
Okay, technical issues. Here we go. Better?
Ananda, can you see?
Yeah, now it's visible. It's good.
Okay, sorry about that, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, so you heard what I was saying. Essentially, I was choosing the type of template from this drop-down menu. As you see, we have more than those built in, but for today's demonstration, we're using the integrated zone of comparison test. I confirmed that here. And then I was telling you about the 50 different crime categories that you could choose from, which will then give you inbuilt questions as suggestions or modifiable questions to include. Just to save time, I already prepared one, so I can use a recall test button to recall the test we've already prepared. The top half of the screen here would show you question suggestions. The bottom half of the screen here shows you the actual protocol or template. This is the list of questions that will be given to you to ask during the actual test.
And just to tell you further, the green is a control or relevant, green is a comparison or control question, and it goes together with a red question. That's called a pair. So in the IZCT, we have 3 pairs, at 4 and 5, 7 and 8, and 10 and 11. Those are our pairs that score against each other. The blue questions are neutrals, irrelevant questions. A neutral question would typically be, is today Friday? Yes. So neutral questions are always answered with yes, yes only. And the green and red questions must always be structured to produce the answer of no, i.e. denials. If somebody answered a red question, for example, did you purposely disable any door or window? If they said yes, that would be a confession, and then your job would be over. You just reduce the confession from verbal to writing. So that's the basic construct, and that's what we work off. In this, in the 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th column from the left, you'll see rotate, that's rotation. And you'll see 4, 7, 10, 7, 3. What that means is that we are rotating the questions from chart 1 to chart 2 to chart 3. The protocol calls for it's a 3-chart exam. Now, this construct was originally devised by Cleve Baxter, one of the polygraph gods or polygraph scientists. And initially, the methodology was to rotate the red question. And in 2000, I was fortunate to have a long sit-down meeting with Cleve Baxter, who's now passed away. And I said to him, why did you revolve the red questions? And he said, so that the subject doesn't get used to the questions and know which order they are in, to avoid countermeasures. And my question to him was, but then surely if you're going to affect a countermeasure, you would affect it on the green questions to increase your response. And he said, you're right, but traditionally the polygraph community wanted to rotate the red questions. Now, Baxter had done research, he carried out research on the efficacy of rotating the control questions instead, because that is where you would affect a countermeasure in polygraphy, and actually also in voice stress detection. So we went with our thinking and with Baxter's thinking, and we rotate the control question and not the relevant question. So what shows, by question number 4, it shows you that in chart 1, that green question is in position 7. In chart 4, in chart 2, it'll be at position 7, and in chart 3, it'll be in position 10. So that's what that means, that rotation column. Luke?
So just to clarify, you'll see the questions that are blue and are purple. They are a specific type of questions. They serve a purpose by being asked during the test, but the actual results of the test are only based on the comparison between your control questions and your relevant questions. There are inbuilt calculations. It's not exactly that simple, but this is the premise of lie detection. Did the subject have higher reactions, higher flight or fight reactions to the relevance compared to the controls? And there's pairs, as Cliff mentioned. This is one pair, this is your second pair, and this is your third pair. These are called zones of comparison, where you compare a control and a relevant directly after each other.
So this gives the subject the best fighting chance, because from chart 1 to chart 2 to chart 3, it means that every red question would have been tested or weighed against every green question. So you will get your chart score, your average chart. After chart 2, your average will change. After chart 3, you will have your final averaging of the 3 charts, and you've then given the subject or the examinee the best fighting chance to pass the test.
True. So just to very briefly explain, an irrelevant question, which would be a blue question, seems like it's irrelevant, as its name suggests. It serves its purpose by ensuring that the subject is at its what's known as homeostasis, which is as close to their baseline nervous level as you possibly get.
First question, stress release.
The very first question is called the initial stress reliever, or first stress question release. This is to ensure you've just had a pre-test phase, which we will show you now. Obviously, it's quite a stressful situation. They've been called in for questioning regarding some serious incident, and this is enabling them to answer a question that is easy without thinking, okay, now we can start.
So the first question, we call it first question stress release. Everybody comes into a test with a certain amount of ambient anxiety or nervousness. And so that first question is pretty innocuous. Is today Friday? Yes. And it sort of starts to set the tone. The second question is called a sacrifice relevant question. It's used to introduce the subject matter and to further help the subject to release any ambient stress. To introduce the subject matter would be, for example, are you going to lie to any of the questions about stealing from Tata? He knows which way this is going to go, and we then follow that up with another neutral question to then reset your baseline, and then we start with our pairs.
Okay, So we can follow up more. If anyone has questions, you can always contact us via our emails or ask Fernanda directly. But just for time purposes, we'll go straight into an examination mode now. This page here is just for creating and editing your protocols. Where the action happens is on the test page.
One of the most important aspects of the whole process is the pre-test phase, where you do the psychological set. You set the subject up for the test with the objective to help him pass.
We gotta watch the time now. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing quickly. So back to this mode. In reality, I would prefer, so Cliff is going to be my subject. I'm going to be the examiner. Cliff would preferably be on the opposite side of a table to me. You need at least what we call the least stimulus room. So you would like an interview room with no posters on the wall, no ambient noise, this kind of thing. In COVID-19 scenarios, we're wearing face shields. We still have the headset on, and we are using alcohol swabs, of course. Okay, so Cliff would be opposite me, and I would run through a series of questions. I will not give a perfect demonstration because I will explain what I'm doing as well. Just for time, we may shorten it slightly because we're quite close here. So I would introduce myself. I would tell Cliff to come in and have a seat, and I'll be with you in a moment. This is me retaining control of the room immediately. I'm now going to ignore Cliff for at least 10-15 seconds, writing on my pad, just to establish that I'm in control of this situation. For law enforcement, which I know a lot of you are, this is one of your innate skills already learnt. Then we run through a brief explanation of the scenario, and we are what's called Attaining Jeopardy. We're here about, so my name is Luke. Good morning. Do you understand why we are here?
Yes, I believe I'm a suspect in a burglary.
Correct. So there's been a burglary at the Tata head offices. There was no sign of forced entry, so the company's contacted us. We conduct truth verification tests,
Okay.
And the purpose of these tests is actually to eliminate the truthful and honest people as much as it is to find the people responsible for helping this burglary at Tata.
Okay.
I'm just going to ask you a few brief questions. Your full name, please.
Clifton Kutsia,
Date of birth.
28 Jan, 55 years old.
Okay, so age is 55. Immediately now, I'm calculating his age minus 3 years, which is obviously 52, and his age minus 5 years, which is 50.
Which is all part of the Baxter protocol.
These are the age brackets I'm going to put into my control questions as Baxter tells us, but you'll see when we get to the test mode. Occupation, sir?
A technician.
And how long have you worked for the company?
For 5 years.
Okay, your health, that's good.
That's fair.
Fair. Why would you say fair? Do you suffer any medical problems?
Not really, but
Okay, do you take any medications?
nothing at the moment.
Okay. Have you been hospitalized in the last 2 years?
No.
Have you had any psychiatric help in the last 2 years? Psychologist, counselor?
No.
Do you drink alcohol?
Occasionally.
Did you drink last night?
Yes.
Okay, what were you drinking?
I had 1 glass of white wine.
And roughly what time was that?
At about 8:30.
Okay, so the next series of questions is what's called fitness to be tested. I'm asking, are they on medication? Have they had any medical surgeries, etc.? Were they drinking last night? I'm going to go through recreational drugs, sleep. This is to ascertain, is there a possible way that they have an adrenal depletion? Adrenal depletion is literally the only true countermeasure that can be conducted. Your brain is screaming out, do a response to the threat of this question, but you've actually got no adrenaline left to have a fight or flight response. So do you take any recreational drugs, for example, marijuana?
No, sir.
Roughly, what time did you get to sleep last night?
10 o'clock.
And up this morning?
6.
And I'm working out, he slept for 8 hours. Have you eaten anything today?
I have, yes.
Okay. What's your highest education level?
Diploma.
In?
Business management and marketing.
Okay. Have you ever been fired before?
No.
Have you ever done a previous polygraph test before?
Yes.
Okay, when was that?
2000.
And what was that for?
To get access to the company's provider list. Their
Okay.
provider list.
So the last few questions are actually for the examiner. Your education level is going to give you a good idea if you perhaps have to modify your relevant questions depending on IQ.
And the level of understanding.
Level of understanding of the scenario. Previous polygraph is quite an interesting question because it gives you an idea, is this person comfortable with the situation? If they've, in South African environment, tests are conducted quite frequently. So you know you have to do a lot more effort on your psychological set because they're so used to the process. But this first section of the pretest is essentially what we call bio details, name, date of birth, etc., fitness of the subject to be tested, and then just at the end, a little bit of information for yourself. So now I have to retain the Jeopardy again, and I'm going to begin what we call our psychological set. This is the way we are going to make our subject lie to a very simple question that he normally would not lie to. So I'm going to be asking you questions about your involvement or possible involvement in this theft at Tata, and your answers are going to be recorded by my voice stress detection system. This will determine if any of your answers are lies or not. So if you don't lie, there's nothing to worry about. If you do lie, my system will detect it, and there will be serious consequences for that, obviously. Just before we start, I'd like you to give me a score out of 10. Just for your general honesty in life, what would you give yourself out of 10 as a score?
About 8.
8. This was the first step in my psychological set. I'm getting a commitment of honesty from the subject. Not one subject has ever given less than 5 out of 10. This means they're saying they're a majority and honest person. I'm simply repeating the number back to psychologically lock the subject into their answer. Then we start what we call the trust block. And this is not a question, I have a command. So subject, I have a trust block here. And in this trust block, I'm going to write down some names of people in your life that generally trust you. It's the same for all of us, our family, our friends. So starting with your parents, name your father.
Steve.
Steve. Mother.
Anne.
Anne. Do you have siblings?
Cheryl.
Cheryl and
Jenny.
Jenny. Name 2 friends.
Gareth.
Gareth and
Arthur.
Arthur. And 2 colleagues.
Billy
and
Fritz.
The purpose of the trust block is simply to establish the people that are most likely to be in the subject's inner circle. These are the people they've talked to the most and they're most likely to have lied to in their life. As a quick reminder, so these are the people in your life that generally trust you.
I would think so.
Good. Now I'm pausing, I'm making sure there's a demeanor of please don't disappoint me, and I'm doing a little bit of acting and I'm looking slowly at my subject, softly saying, Cliff, you're not the kind of person that lies to the people that trust you, are you?
No.
Oh, okay, good. I didn't think so. Essentially, it's a very simple methodology. It's very hard to pull off 100%, but if you do this correctly, not one person in the world will say, yes, I lie to people. All will agree with you, no, I don't. And this is basically where their psychology kicks in. I've got my first one. So, Cliff, you're not the kind of person that steals from the people that trust you, are you?
No.
No. Okay, good. Didn't think so. And I'm rewarding my subject. No, good. I didn't think so. So, Cliff, because you don't lie to the people that trust you, because you don't steal from the people that trust you, it naturally follows you don't cheat the people that trust you, correct?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, good. I've completed my psychological set. I'm very happy with myself as the examiner because I've now forced my subject to lie to the control questions. Okay.
And he can't go back from there because he said good, he's made ticks. So those are rewards and awards. So if he wants to change his answer, he's going to have to say, take those away. And it's difficult for somebody to do that.
Okay, the next step would be to practice the questions with my subject. This is always done in particular order, all the irrelevance first, then your relevant questions, where it's very important that you explain the wording of your relevant question to reduce what we call wiggle room. The human brain has an amazing capacity to wiggle out of things. So the one word in my relevant question can really mean the difference between pass or fail if that person could possibly think of a way to get out of the question. Again, just for time, I'm actually going to skip the relevant question practice. We've got 10 minutes left. And basically, I've told the subject, I'm going to ask you this question, what will your answer be, and explaining my questions. So I've finished my pre-test. I'm happy. This is generally a half-an-hour episode to make sure I've done my psychological set and explain my relevant questions correctly.
It's exactly the same as polygraph methodology, identical.
Now I will face my subject towards a blank wall. He has his headset on so that nothing else other than his voice is going to go into the program. For demonstration, my voice will also go into the program, but in face-to-face testing, this will not be the case. I'm going to show you the program again.
Just check that they can see it.
Yeah, they can. They got the green box.
Oh, okay.
So I select the type of test I'm going to do. It's the demo for Tata that we've already created. A simple filing system is a parent folder and subject folder, which I then enter and confirm. As soon as I click Start Test, my 3 charts will pop up here. The first thing I'm doing now, you'll notice the green line rolling across the screen from left to right, and you'll see my voice spectrograph is being shown. I need to confirm that my volume settings are correct. Obviously, it's a program that relies on audio. I can see that it is already, and for demo purposes, I've already checked this. And I start my test. Excuse me. You'll see chart 1, chart 2, chart 3. Chart 1 is one run through the specific list of questions. You'll see my line, my audio line is turned red. This means I'm recording the whole process now. And the first question immediately pops up in the box to be read here. You'll see there's a green box here with a flashing cursor. This means you're live and ready to ask your first question. You simply ask the question, and very importantly, you use an enter stroke on your keyboard the moment the last syllable comes out of your mouth. There'll be a 1 second delay, exactly 1 second delay, in which case the subject will hear a beep and the program will be waiting for the answer to analyze. This is extremely important and actually not present in any other program, because we need the timing of the answer to always be the same point of time within the response curve. So when I say response curve, we need to be, when the subject is having the fight or flight response, we need to be within the curve. Do you want to show them? I'll just flip quickly back to our normal video.
This, can you see that?
Yep.
So this would be the onset phase when the operator examiner is asking the question. And the response curve would be, let's just say it's like that. This is time, duration, and this is amplification. So the purpose of the beep, it's to catch the answer in the same place of the response curve every time, 12 times. So it's not going to be the same place for everybody, but it's important that it's in the same place for every subject. So it would be pointless if we catch a green question there and a red there. Not going to work. So what we want to do is we want to catch them in the greens and the reds in the same place every time, green and red. And that's the purpose of the beep. So when he's finished speaking, he activates a timer, which activates a beep, and then the subject answers. So for every subject, it doesn't matter how long he takes to talk, because the beep is the signal, answer now. So it means whatever his curve is, it could be like that, it could be like this, but the beep ensures that it's going to be in the same place every time. And that is the key to the reliability and accuracy of the system.
Okay, so we know we're going to catch the same response, the same curve time. I'm going to ask my subject, is today Friday? I'm going to click the enter button. This green box will turn yellow whilst we're in the 1 second delay period. It will then turn red the moment the subject hears the beep. And then should I get an answer that is at the right volumes, etc., it will turn blue to tell me that it's captured the answer. And immediately in the box here, it will show me the stress value returned from the neural network database. So we'll give you a demo. Is today Friday? Enter.
Yes.
And I hit enter again to finish my question. You'll see immediately a stress value has been put into the box.
Which is high. First question, stress release.
First question, stress release, true. Are you going to lie to any of the questions about stealing from Tata?
No.
I use a second enter stroke just to tell the program I'm finished with that question. There's also a 6 second delay between questions, which is quite important because it allows the subject's body to restore homeostasis between questions. Are we in South Africa?
Yes.
So before the age of, this is why I calculated my ages in the pre-test. Before the age of 52, did you ever lie to anyone that trusted you?
No.
This is my first control. As the examiner, I'm immediately looking and I'm quite happy that it's a high number because that's giving the subject the best chance to pass.
It shows that the control's working.
Did you ever purposely disable any door or window locks at the Tata head offices?
No.
Are we in the year 2020?
Yes. Should I explain this?
In your entire life, did you ever cheat anyone that trusted you?
No.
Did you ever help anyone else to break into the Tata head office building?
No.
Are we in the month of May?
Yes.
Between the ages of 50 and 52, did you ever lie to anyone that trusted you?
No.
Do you know for sure the names of any of the persons responsible for the break-in at Tata head offices?
No.
Did you lie to any of the questions in this test?
No.
So this is the completion of one chart. This is one run through the questions. The program's telling me that I've completed and I must continue with the next one. Again, just for time, we won't go through both charts, but as soon as I've finished my chart here, you'll notice the program is calculating and my first, what's called a DI score for chart one is shown here on the bottom of the screen, which is a 61.88. The way the program is calibrated, 70 and above would be a fail, what we would call a deception indicated. That means they lied to you. In this case, we have what's called a no deception indicated. This person has passed the first chart. I must do the second chart and the third chart where the results will come up here and here. And the average of your three scores will give you an overall result for your test, all in real time as soon as you've finished your test.
And you can also use it telephonically. It takes a little bit of skill to get the right connections because computers, some have different port configurations and certain mobile phones also have different port configurations. But once you get past that, it works very well with telephones, mobile phones particularly. We have a few insurance claims call centers in South Africa running our software, testing claimants. And it's pretty working well for them. And we wanted to tell you about a product which is coming on the market in about 3 months' time. It's called PCAT, P-C-A-T, which stands for preliminary credibility assessment technology, which would enable quick screening of suspects. It installs onto Android mobile phones. Eventually, it will be iPhones as well. And it's a very simple operation: a swipe, ask a question, capture the answer, and it's a one chart. In other words, it's a one run screening. And to those relevant questions, it won't give values. It'll give either green, orange, or red results. Green is a pass, orange is inconclusive, and red is a fail. So you could screen 100 people, 100 suspects within an hour, and we would always say you'd get about a 10% suspect bunch or control bunch. So if you screen 100 people, you'd get about 10 suspects, and you would then submit them to an issue test like Luke has just shown you. And that is aimed primarily for law enforcement, military applications.
Yeah, so basically, I think we're almost out of time. If there's a possibility of any questions, we're very happy to answer any questions you have now. I'm assuming Fernanda is okay with that. If we have time, I'll just pop this up for now whilst we answer any questions. If you need to contact us, please feel free to go directly through Fernanda and Clue for Evidence. And if you want any more information, you can check our website. Yeah, Fernanda is definitely our agent in India, but if you want to contact us directly for specific questions, we're happy to answer anything like that as well.
Thank you, Mr. Luke. Thank you, Mr. Clifton, for demonstrating how the technology which can save the time for the investigators and to give a step ahead for further investigation. And just to summarize the whole discussion, dear participants, in the polygraph test or in the lie detection examination, there are different categories of questions. So these questions are chronologically arranged as per the requirement of the particular situation, and there are different zone of tests, so depending upon the test, depending upon the situation, depending upon the time what you have for conducting the examination, so you're going to choose the appropriate column, the appropriate category of the questionnaire. Then you start with your asking the question to the particular subject or the suspect. So this is the overall theory of the lie detection technique, and which one of the tool what we just saw is the tool which is based on the voice graph. So it is demonstrated piece of evidence that voice has a tremor. This is called lip load tremor, a micro tremor, which would be identified by this particular application, and the difference in the voice graph is what will actually give the conclusion if it, the answer given by the subject is truth or a false. However, this is a tool very effectively which can be used, and it should also be used by a trained examiner. That is also very, very important. So with this briefing, so I would like to take up the questions from the participants now. Participants, you can raise your hands. I'll allow you to speak then. We have one question from Mr. Harman. Harman, go ahead.
Yes. Hello, Mr. Luke. Hello, Mr. Clifton. It was very pleasing to hear from you about how you have pioneered this software. And I just wanted to know if a recording made a telephonic conversation made by a insurance agent and the insured is tested, can it be helpful to detect a deception in the question, in the answers?
We have exactly this capability. It is in place. We would say that if you're taking off a pure recording of a phone call, which is not following a validated question construct, you're looking more indicative rather than highly probable results. We definitely have this capability. It is in process right now in insurance companies in South Africa. However, we would always recommend a face-to-face test to get 90+% probability on your outcome.
And what about when there is a talk between some police inspector or any other advocate and their client or something like that?
Sorry,
Does
just
it,
repeat.
uh,
Repeat it.
if, I'm talking about if an investigating officer talks to someone on uh, phone regarding some investigation, or an advocate is talking to someone regarding some case. Does this also?
uh, I'll make it simple. Look, what he is checking with the, can you verify the integrity of the recorded piece of audio? See, what we just now discussed is a controlled level of examination where you ask a question, you wait for the response. Question is about, can you verify the statement reliability on the basis of a recording piece of audio? So which you already answered by now.
Yes, you absolutely can. It just has not the highest probability as it would with a face-to-face test following a validated protocol. We didn't show you in the demonstration. I can quickly show you now if you like. We have what's called the narrative version. Let me share. I will show you now. On narrative mode, you're not following a specific question protocol. You're merely running a recording through, or you're analyzing a common stream of speech. This will analyze every possible word, but obviously lies are never told in isolation. Lies are always hidden within the truth. So the probability of your test is quite different to your high 90 percentiles, but it gives you a very good indication whether that person is under a very high stress scenario or if they're leaning towards telling the truth. So yes, short answer, it has the capability, but your probability percentage is quite a fair bit lower than if you were to follow a validated scientific construct.
Thank you, Luke. We have one participant, Ritika Roy. Go ahead.
Hi, Luke. Hi, Cliff. Thank you so much for that session. It was brilliant. My question is, what would you consider? Do you think that this process has an error rate? If so, what is the error rate that the system has? And are you facing any difficulties in terms of its admissibility as evidence or as expert evidence in court or during legal procedures? Thank you.
Okay, the program itself, the neural network, has a documented plus minus 1% error probability. This is from an external company that tests neural networks for you. It doesn't mean it will return the wrong stress value. It means it's very likely to return the stress value directly beside the correct one. So this is an inbuilt 1% error probability. The error probability for an actual test is very dependent on the type of test you do. So the type of test we just demonstrated, the IZCT, is the strongest possible test in the world, and it has a theoretical probability of 99.4%. This is not a number sucked out of my thumb. I can show you very quickly. This is from a scientific paper that's comparing the major protocol types here, and you'll notice this is the IZCT here. It is the highest probability from all, and you'll see there's one beside it with a similar one, but it has less of an error range. So this is technically the best test in the world that you can use. So yes, long story short, you're looking at roughly 2% error probability. Very, very important is that you factor in the examiner and the situation itself. There's a strong correlation between the jeopardy of the situation and the probability of your outcome. Admissibility in court varies from country to country. In South Africa, we have several court precedents that are allowed in what are called our labor courts. It's called the CCMA. Even one or two of those precedents are involving our particular program, which is great for us. I believe that in the Indian environment, you have this Selvi versus the state of Karnataka, which I'm sure you know about. But Our demonstration today is not necessarily to do with gaining yourself evidence in your investigations. It's more to do with leading your investigation, saving yourself a lot of time and resources by focusing on those who need the most investigation. This is a great tool for that.
In South Africa, we have specialized police agencies. The Hawks, members of the Hawks are using our product. Members of the State Security Agency are using our product. The South African Revenue Services Investigative Department are using our product.
CETA.
Yeah, some of the CETA, that's a state
Information Technology
Agency, are using our product. So it's gaining ground, and I believe that it will be tested in court soon. South Africa is moving towards acceptance of DoD technologies, detection of deception. The Association of Certified Fraud Examiners in South Africa, you have your branch in India. We sat with them recently and we drew up guidelines for the training of voice stress detection examiners. So you can glean from that the ACFE also regards our technology as being viable and reliable.
We have Shweta Sharma.
Hello, sir. Congratulations on the presentation. It was a very understandable and new information for us. Thank you so much for that. Sir, we have layered voice analysis equipment being adapted by forensic science labs in India. So I wanted to know, is there any technological difference between the two instruments, the one that you have, listed off?
There's a big difference. LDA is measures tone and pitch. For example, if you're using a layered voice analysis and you asked me, are you Elvis Presley? And I said, yes, low and slow, it would say I'm telling the truth. If you asked me, are you Clifton Coetzee? And I said, yes, it would say I'm telling a lie. So to base voice stress detection on pitch and tone is not reliable, because you can hear the pitch and tone. If you do a little bit of Google research, you will quickly learn how to commit countermeasures. Okay. When I went on the voice stress detection journey in 1997, 98, I experimented using Diogenes, PSE, which came from Dector. These are all manual systems, and Cluster Pro, which is an LDA type from Nemesisco. And we quickly found that the LDA types had reliability, which is the same as the American research, about 40 to 45%. Anything that's less than 50% becomes a coin toss. So I abandoned that and I carried on with Diogenes, which is microtremor VSD, and PSE, which is also microtremor based. I found them both to have very high consistency with polygraph results. We had already about 250 known solution polygraph tests. In other words, where a subject failed and later confessed. The problem with PSE and Diogenes, the Diogenes was a better product because it was laptop based. PSE was very mechanical. It just was not viable. It took too long, although it was reliable. And so we focused on Diogenes. And what happened is in our original development, we were fortunate to secure the services of a French physicist who wrote Diogenes. He coded it and wrote it. And that was our first iteration of AbsaPro. Later, we used our own development partners. So I don't want to make the comparison that my dog is prettier than your dog, but definitely our product is much higher reliability than any product that's using layered voice analysis or works with pitch and tone.
Very, very quickly, the main difference. Yeah, pitch and tone I can control. With anything associated with voice stress detection, you're talking about the physiological microtremor and you're talking about autonomic muscles tensing. Both of these things are entirely out of your control. You cannot control it. Physiological microtremor is a phenomena that is just there without your control. And autonomic muscles, as the name suggests, are absolutely autonomic. This is out of your control. So there is no possible way to conduct a countermeasure for a VSD test, whereas I can literally control myself to pass or fail an LVA test as I wish. That is the short answer.
Also, you'll find that if you're testing, so often when you go into companies to test, some people will come in and say, am I a suspect? They're quite indignant and suffering high levels of anxiety because they're being considered as a suspect. And those people will more than likely fail a test based on pitch and tone, because they will give short-clipped, high-tone, high-pitch answers. So, as I say, we found out early about 40% reliability, which is the same as a few research projects conducted by the APA from the States, and we agreed with their research results.
Thank you, sir.
Dear participants, I'm taking the last question of the day. I have Mr. Ayush.
Yes, sir.
Ayush Rawat.
Yes, sir. Hello, Luke. Hello, Clip. My
Hi.
question is that, can you fail a polygraph when telling the truth?
I would say no. If a truthful person fails a polygraph test, there must be an examiner problem, an examiner or operator problem. Didn't do a proper pre-test phase. Pre-test phase is extremely important for either polygraph or voice stress detection. It's of the utmost importance. There's no magic wand. You can't just simply sit a person down and fire off 20 or 30 questions at them. First of all, many years of psychological research proves that there shouldn't be more than 12 questions. When there are too many questions, the strength of the test wanes, and then everybody will pass. If you take a guilty person and you ask them 25 questions, they're probably going to pass. By the second chance, they will definitely pass. An innocent person fails a test, it goes down to examiner error.
I mean, if you are nervous, can you fail a lie detector test?
Not if it's done properly, no, because like we said from the beginning, we expect the person to come in with a raised level of anxiety. That's normal. So we look at amplification of a baseline, not just pure raw signal.
So this graph that Cliff drew quickly before, talking about some sort of response, some sort of follow-up response, whatever it is. In our case, it's going to be tensing of autonomic muscles. And some sort of, this is time here, some sort of response happens, yeah? And then your body wants to come back to normal, hence it comes back down. All that you're doing if you're coming into a test nervous is you're moving this whole baseline up. So maybe your baseline is here, but your response will still be away from your baseline.
Yeah.
So your baseline nervous level is actually not a factor at all in any test.
Yeah, doesn't matter if it's there, or there. It's everything from there upwards. Hope that answers your question.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
All right, dear friends, it's time for us to come to the end of the session. So yes, we have many other people who have actually had a lot of questions which they have raised the hands. Due to the time constraint, I am obligated to bring the session of this hour to an end. So I thank Mr. Luke and Mr. Clifton for your valuable time and great presentation. Which is definitely, which definitely gives us a thought process as to what's next. Okay, because investigations are definitely affected because of many reasons, out of which there are few countries who do not usually permit conducting the polygraph tests. Okay, and if the polygraph test is to be done, there are again different techniques for the lie detection. Few of the techniques in India has been restricted and not to be used. However, with this technology, I see, yes, with the available provisions as per the law, this can definitely be used for effective crime investigations. And I thank you both for your wonderful session of the hour. So thank you, participants, for joining us. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.